severe burns to his face after one of his cars erupted in flames.
The doctor describes Leno's condition as good and says he's up and walking around, even cracking jokes.
Dr. Grossman says Jay Leno wants to be open about his condition and about his prognosis.
Moments ago, Jay Leno sat down in front of a camera inside his Burbank garage. $100 million worth of metal gleaming behind him, and broke down in tears. Not performing, not building to a punchline. The man who made America laugh every single night for 3 decades was sobbing, confirming the horrible news that has been quietly destroying him for months. He looked straight into the lens with swollen red-rimmed eyes and said 5 words that sent shockwaves through Hollywood. But here's the catch. The horrible news he confirmed isn't about his burns. It isn't about the motorcycle crash that shattered his bones. It isn't even about his own body failing him. What made Jay Leno cry on camera is about someone else entirely, the one person he loves more than any machine he's ever built. And what he revealed about her is the reason he's giving up everything. The garage, the cars, the stage, all of it, gone. The surrender. The atmosphere in the video was wrong from the first. Frame, no jokes, no monologue, no audience, no warm-up. Just Jay, staring into the lens, wearing the same denim shirt he always wears, except this time, it looked like it was barely holding him together. His hands were clasped in front of him, the way people hold themselves when they're trying not to fall apart. He opened with, "I've lived a blessed life." When Jay Leno says something like that, you brace for the twist, you wait for the joke. You lean in because that's what 40 years of watching this man has trained you to do.
I'm preheating the pilot. Liquid gasoline comes in, hits the pilot, and it turns into a gaseous state.
The joke never came. Instead, his voice cracked, and he confirmed what insiders in Burbank had been dreading for months. The ride is over. But this wasn't a retirement announcement. We have all heard those before from celebrities looking for one last round of applause before the inevitable comeback tour. This was different. This felt final. This was a surrender. Jay admitted his health has been in freefall since the back-to-back accidents that nearly killed him in 2022 and 2023. And while the world cheered his resilience and called him indestructible, the truth behind closed doors was something nobody was prepared to hear. Because those accidents weren't just bad luck. They were the beginning of a chain reaction that took everything from him. And the first domino fell on a cold night in November, the fireball. November 2022. Jay was underneath a 1907 white steam car in his garage, working a clogged fuel line. Gasoline sprayed across his face and chest without warning. One spark. The comedian was engulfed in a fireball. Third-degree burns across his face, hands, and chest. His skin was melting. His friend Dave, standing just feet away, threw himself onto Jay and smothered the flames with his own body.
And then the pilot light jumped and my face caught on fire.
Without that split-second decision, Jay Leno dies on the concrete floor of his own garage. He spent 10 days in the Grossman Burn Center. Skin graft after skin graft, layers of tissue peeled away and replaced while he gripped the bed rails through pain the medical team described as nearly unsurvivable. Dr. Peter Grossman, the surgeon who led the procedures, later told reporters the burns were among the most severe he had treated on a patient who walked out alive. Jay's face was bandaged beyond recognition. The man America watched on television every weeknight for 2 decades was unrecognizable even to the people who loved him. The moment he was discharged, still wrapped in compression garments, still on heavy medication, he drove to a comedy club and did a set. The audience gave him a standing ovation before he opened his mouth. The world cheered. That's Jay. Nothing stops him. But that wasn't resilience. That was a man terrified of what would happen if he stopped moving long enough for the pain to catch up. It was denial wearing a faded denim shirt, and it cost him absolutely everything. 2 months later, gravity came for him again. Jay was on a vintage motorcycle in a Burbank parking lot, a routine ride he had done 1,000 times before without thinking twice, when a thin wire strung across the path at neck height clotheslined him at full speed. He never saw it. He went down hard, broken collarbone, 2 broken ribs, cracked kneecaps, 220 pounds of vintage steel pinning him to the asphalt. For a man in his 70s whose skin grafts hadn't even fully settled, this wasn't just an accident, it was a detonation. He joked about it on camera within days. He He told Hodakotb he was just having a bad streak with gravity. The audience laughed, but the body doesn't laugh. The body keeps score, and it was keeping a very detailed account. But the real damage wasn't visible. The doctors told Jay something after that crash he kept from everyone for over a year. And when it finally came out, it changed everything. The diagnosis. Here's the deal. The nerve damage from the burns, layered on top of the skeletal trauma from the crash, had created a compounding condition inside his body that was getting worse, not better, much worse. The doctors told him he was sitting on a ticking time bomb. They told him the damage was accelerating. He ignored them. He kept filming Jay Leno's garage. He kept doing 150 stand-up gigs a year. He kept tinkering on engines until 2 in the morning, hands shaking, dropping wrenches he'd held steady for decades. And the whole time, his body was quietly collapsing from the inside out. The horrible news Jay confirmed in that broadcast is this. He has been diagnosed with progressive neuropathy, a degenerative condition of the nervous system directly caused by the compounding trauma.
People work with their hands, get injured every single day.
His nerves are misfiring constantly, sending pain signals to places that aren't injured and going silent in places that need them most. Weakness spreading through his hands and legs like rust through old steel. Numbness that makes him drop tools he's held for 50 years. Burning pain that doesn't stop. Not at night, not in the morning, not ever. Some days he can't feel the steering wheel. Other days the pain is so sharp he can't hold a coffee cup. Dr. Grossman, who continued monitoring Jay's recovery long after the burn unit, reportedly warned him months ago that the trajectory was irreversible without a complete and total stop. The gigs, the garage, the filming, all of it. Jay didn't listen. He kept pushing. He kept smiling for the cameras and white-knuckling through the pain behind them. Not until his doctors sat him down for what sources described as a brutal, no-nonsense intervention and delivered the ultimatum that ended everything. Stop now, or you won't be walking in a year. Let that sink in. The man whose entire identity is built on movement, driving at 200 miles an hour, performing in a different city every weekend, crawling under engines at midnight, was told his legs are failing, and his hands, the hands that restored hundreds of machines bolt by bolt, that rebuilt carburetors with the precision of a surgeon, are losing their feeling. For a mechanic, that's like a pianist going deaf. It doesn't just end your career, it erases who you are. If this is already hitting you hard, subscribe now, because what Jay revealed next makes everything you just heard look like the good news. The liquidation. Jay looked at the cars behind him, Duesenbergs, McLarens, Bugattis, machines worth millions, some of them irreplaceable pieces of engineering history, and said something that made his cameraman, a guy named Duncan, who has filmed Jay for over a decade, put the camera down for a moment. You can't take your garage with you. Duncan later told a colleague the room went completely still after that. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. It was the first time in all those years he'd seen Jay with nothing left to say. The silence hung in the air like exhaust smoke. And get this, he's not just parking the cars, he's liquidating a massive portion of the entire collection. Over $100 million worth of automotive history. Duesenbergs, Packards, a 1906 Stanley Steamer, a McLaren F1, a Blastoline Special, machines that museums around the world have begged to display for decades, gone. All of it going to auction. He's donating the proceeds to a foundation for young mechanics and engineers, kids from trade schools and community colleges who remind him of the version of himself that existed before any of this.
Okay, well that was interesting. That's the last Duesenberg made by the Duesenberg brothers.
These cars gave me purpose, he said. But they deserve to inspire the next generation, not collect dust behind locked doors. Jay's longtime friend and fellow collector J.K., the Jamiroquai frontman, told a British automotive magazine he was speechless when he heard. "You don't give away your life's work unless you've accepted something the rest of us haven't," he said. He was quiet for a long time after that, and that silence told you everything. The signs were everywhere if you knew where to look. Jay started sitting down during interviews when he'd always stood, something no one in his circle had ever seen him do. He started taking the elevator instead of stairs in buildings he used to sprint through 2 steps at a time. He stopped showing up to Pebble Beach, the Quail, Amelia Island, marquee car events he hadn't missed in 40 years. Events where he was treated like royalty, where crowds would part for him like he was automotive Moses. His booking agent told venue managers it was scheduling conflicts. His team told car show organizers he was working on new episodes of The Garage. None of it was true. He couldn't walk the fields anymore. He couldn't stand for the hours those events demand. He couldn't grip the handshakes without wincing from the nerve pain shooting through his fingers. The physical demand of simply being Jay Leno in public, the walking, the standing, the performing of wellness, had become impossible. The man was broken and hiding it behind the same chin-up grin he'd been wearing since Johnny Carson handed him the keys to The Tonight Show in 1992, and nobody saw through it until now. Jimmy Fallon, who inherited The Tonight Show chair, shared a clip of Jay mentoring him backstage with the caption, "There will never be another one." The tributes poured in from around the world, but the silence of the man himself was louder than all of it. He didn't ask for pity. He asked for understanding. But if you think the physical collapse is the real reason Jay Leno broke down in tears on that camera, you're missing the thing that actually shattered him. Because the horrible news isn't just about his body, it's about Mavis. And this is the part that breaks you. The woman in the passenger seat, Mavis Leno. 43 years in the passenger seat. They never had children. It was always Jay and Mavis against the world, and that was enough. She was the one waiting at home while he taped shows until midnight. The quiet force who kept him grounded when fame tried to pull him apart. The one who told him the truth when everyone else told him what he wanted to hear. He called her his best friend, his sounding board, the only audience that ever mattered. When the Letterman rivalry nearly consumed him, Mavis pulled him back. When the network pushed him out in 2009, Mavis was the one who said, "We have each other. That's the show that matters." Earlier this year, court filings revealed that Mavis has been diagnosed with advanced dementia, not mild cognitive decline, not the occasional forgotten name that comes naturally with aging. Advanced dementia, progressing fast enough that Jay had to petition a Los Angeles Superior Court for conservatorship to manage her care, her finances, and her legal affairs. The filing, reported by TMZ and confirmed by Jay's representatives, described a woman losing her connection to the present, to her memories, and to the man sitting beside her. Friends of the couple describe moments where Mavis looks at Jay and doesn't recognize him, the man she married, the man she spent 4 decades with, gone in a blink, replaced by confusion and sometimes fear. And then, minutes later, she's back. She knows him. She reaches for his hand. She smiles the same smile he fell in love with in 1980. And Jay holds on to those minutes like they're oxygen, because he knows each one could be the last clear moment they share. Each good day could be the final good day.
Drove home right after that. My wife doesn't drive anymore, and I didn't want her stuck and not knowing what was going on.
And there's no way to know which one it will be. This is why he broke down. This is the horrible news underneath the horrible news. The tears weren't for himself. They were for her. They were for every morning he wasted and every evening he'll never get back. The regret, Jay admitted, with tears running into the scars the fire left on his face, that he missed birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, thousands of quiet mornings when Mavis was still fully Mavis, still sharp, still funny, still the woman who could cut him down to size with a single look and make him laugh harder than any audience ever did. He was in the garage when he should have been at the kitchen table. He was on a stage in Topeka when he should have been holding her hand. He was under a car when he should have been beside her, watching old movies on the couch. He chose the applause of strangers over the silence of being with the one person who never needed him to be funny, who just needed him to be there. He spent 40 years chasing laughs, while the one person who actually needed him was right there, waiting, patient, loyal. And now she's disappearing, day by day, memory by memory, the recognition fading from her eyes like headlights dimming on a long, dark road. He can't get those mornings back. Nobody can. That's the cruelest math there is. That's why he's selling it all. Every Ferrari, every Duesenberg, every piece of chrome and steel that defined his public identity. He's liquidating the $100 million collection to simplify their life down to what actually matters. He's trading horsepower for time, legacy for love, speed for stillness. Because here's the thing about Jay Leno that most people never understood. The cars were never really about the cars. They were about having something that couldn't leave him, couldn't forget him, couldn't change. Metal doesn't drift away, Engines don't lose your name. But now, even that certainty is gone, because his hands can't hold the wrenches anymore. So, he's letting go of the only constant he ever had to hold on to the one person who still matters. But Jay isn't fading into the dark. He's controlling the exit. And what he's been building in secret is the part nobody saw coming. The last ride. Now, this is where it gets personal. Sources close to the production have confirmed that Jay has been quietly filming a raw, unfiltered documentary called The Last Ride. This isn't a glossy network special built for ratings and ad revenue. There's no narrator, no celebrity cameos, no victory lap. It captures the grueling physical therapy sessions where Jay grits, his teeth through exercises that used to be effortless, his hands trembling on resistance bands he once would have laughed at. It captures the quiet, confused moments with Mavis, the conversations that trail off mid-sentence, the flickers of recognition followed by blank, frightened distance, the mornings where she doesn't know where she is.
Well, I mean, the conversation, it'll be, she'll point at something and say something it doesn't quite make.
It captures the king of late night looking frail and human in ways that will shock anyone who remembers the man who once seemed like he could outrun time itself. And the documentary centers on one thing, one car. While he's selling off the rest of the empire, Jay kept a single vehicle out of over 180, a 1934 Ford. It's not worth millions like the Bugattis or the McLarens. It wouldn't turn a single head at Pebble Beach, but it's the most important car Jay Leno has ever owned because it's the first one. He bought it before any of this, before The Tonight Show, before the fame, before Letterman, before any of it meant anything. This is the car Jay slept in when he was a broke, homeless young comic in Los Angeles in the late 1970s. No agent, no connections, no safety net. He'd drive from club to club across the San Fernando Valley, doing sets for gas money and a free meal if he was lucky, sleeping in the back seat in empty parking lots because he couldn't afford a room, washing up in gas station bathrooms before his next set, eating whatever he could afford, and sometimes nothing at all. The upholstery still has stains from those years. The dashboard has a crack he never fixed because it reminded him of who he was before the world told him who to be. That Ford isn't a collector's item. It's a time machine. It's proof that he was once just a kid with a dream and no money and a car that barely ran, and somehow that was enough. It's not about horsepower anymore, Jay said, running his scarred hand along the Ford's faded hood, his voice barely above a whisper. It's about closure. It's about finishing what I started. He's stripping it down to nothing and rebuilding it one last time. Not for the cameras, not for YouTube, not for legacy, for himself. For the kid from Andover, Massachusetts who just loved taking things apart and putting them back together, who never asked for any of this, who just wanted to make people laugh and fix engines and maybe find someone to share it with. That kid never left the garage, even when the whole world was watching. The final shot of the documentary, according to someone involved in the production, is Jay sitting in the finished Ford, engine idling, Mavis in the passenger seat. The window is down, a warm California evening. Neither of them speaks, they don't go anywhere. They just sit together, the way they used to before everything got so loud, before the fame and the garage and the late nights swallowed their life whole. The camera holds for a long time, then it cuts to black. No credits, no music, just silence. That's it. That's the last ride. So, if you had to choose your legacy or one more quiet morning with the person you love, your name in lights or their hand in yours, what would you trade? Jay Leno just answered that question with everything he has. And it cost him everything he built. Hit like if you'll miss the chin. Subscribe for the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. The story of Jay Leno's last ride is far from over.